hi Trish. Please could you start by introducing yourself?
Sure. I guess my name is Patricia DePinto. I live and grew up in Brooklyn, in New York City. I guess I don't know if you want me to talk about like fertility first, or so I guess what led me to Dr. T. I know everybody, it's Dr. Tortoriello, but I call him Dr. T because he's just amazing to me. So I grew up in Brooklyn. Fertility wise, me and my husband have been struggling to have children since I was about 35 years old. I had my first miscarriage. We really weren't sure we actually wanted kids at that point. And then, you have that miscarriage and it's just like, it's just devastating, and I know a lot of people have been there, and it's not something that I think is talked about enough, and then I had actually seen some other fertility doctors with not very good success. And I don't know how much but I actually had a seizure after being on too much Clomid from another fertility doctor. And blessing in disguise, I was rushed to the emergency room. And long story short, they found out that I had 5 brain aneurysms. And so I had to put having children on hold, because I had to be on a lot of blood thinners, which you can't be on when you're trying to have children. And I had 2 brain surgeries at Mount Sinai in New York City. First on my left hemisphere, 2 aneurysms on my left hemisphere, 3 aneurysms on my right hemisphere. I was in ICU for a bit. And then, me and my husband, after I got kind of the clearance after 6 months of, being like all clear from that, we wanted to try again, have children. And in the course of that, I've had multiple miscarriages in between the first one and the one that I had in February of 2020. And I had to have a DNC and all that fun stuff because we lost the heartbeat. And, and then I just kind of was like, I need to start finding someone. And I mean, Dr. T is my miracle worker. He really is. I have a beautiful baby boy that is 8 months old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for Dr. T,
So going back a bit to what you just mentioned, at what point did you decide, right, it's time to look for a new solution and look for a new fertility doctor? And what led you to Sher Fertility Solutions?
So I think, there's a couple of things, and once again, I don't want to pass judgment, but, when I was seeing the other fertility doctor, he worked for a large institution, and I felt very much like a cog in a wheel. I felt like, something out of like The Wall, it's like an assembly line of people walking towards something, it's like, 15 people in a line getting blood drawn, and it just, it didn't resonate with me. And, there was a lot of not of individual care, I would say. It was very much felt like a factory, and but I was like, but this is what I knew, right? I didn't have any, because it's something we don't talk about enough, this concept of infertility. And so it's like, where do you go? What are your resources? Like, you're just going with, well, this is a known hospital, so I'm going to go with their facilities and their doctors. And then long story short, my, one of our friends, Nicole, me and my husband's friends, Nicole and George, they actually had twin girls, through, Dr. T. And Nicole was like, what, why don't you reach out to Dr. T? And I was like, what, it can't hurt, and I'll be honest with you, it was between, Dr. T and another doctor, and we were trying to decide between which one to go with. And truthfully, we met with Dr. T, and he has really good numbers for women that are older in age, like I am. I'm 43. And so I was like, what, let's go with Dr. T. And I will say, I never felt like a number at Dr. T's office. The nurses, everybody talks to me. I know everybody by name. I send them videos of Alex, that's my son. via email. They want to know how he's doing. I went by the office a couple of weeks ago and popped in with him, and, it feels very, family,
That's fantastic. And so did you sort of know right away after you've consulted with Dr. T that this was the right decision to change doctors and start a new protocol?
I mean, yes, it's a hard, it's the whole process is hard, and it's, nothing's for sure. Right. You do have to go into it, realizing that, did I have a bad cycle? Yes. We did an egg retrieval and all of my eggs cleaved, and I was devastated, but, one thing I will say with Dr. T is he will always change protocol. It's not like, okay, well, it didn't work this time, so we're just going to do the same thing over again. Right. And he never does that. Right. It's like, okay, well, what do we need to change? What, and how did we shift? And I'll be honest with you, the big thing that seemed to help me on that second cycle where we actually had, healthy embryos come from it was, we actually put me on human growth hormone, and I know not everybody's a fan of that. Right. But, it did help, and it wasn't something that I even would have thought of. But Dr. T was like, based off of age, based off of all the trauma you've had, let's try and make this as easy as possible for you, And so he's like, I think we should go down this route. And, and he met with me. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, well, we're just going to do over and over again the same thing. And it was just like, after the bad cycle, we met, we talked it out. What are some options? What's the right, so there's active problem solving happening, and there is no perfect answer, right? It's like what's going to work for each person. But I think, going back with Dr. T and Sher Fertility is they really do try to look at the individual and the need and, cater to that need, which is very important, as well as also just making you feel like you're supported and you're not like in this alone,
So I'm sat here right now in the New York clinic and I've met all the team and they're so wonderfully kind. And like you said, everyone knows your name. And I witnessed an egg retrieval this morning, which was absolutely fascinating. And I've had a tour of the lab and it's been sensational to see where the magic happens. So you've obviously been in excellent hands and I'm so happy that your journey has resulted in this. Did you ever at any point think this isn't going to work? You said you had a cycle where the results weren't what you wanted. What happened after that? How many cycles and transfers have you had?
So with Dr. T, I've had 3 egg retrievals. And then once again, because of my age, because of, my experience, we decided we should genetically test the eggs. Once again, the idea is that my body's been through a lot of trauma. I also had to be very careful with like having the brain surgery, like leading up to even delivery, was like, I was, even beyond my age because of the brain surgery, because of the aneurysms, I'm still high risk for a lot of other reasons, so it was like, should we put her under anesthesia? Can she have a natural childbirth? A lot of those questions even came up. So, we did the first cycle, wasn't very successful. Second cycle, we genetically tested. We actually still have, some, an embryo frozen from that cycle that we haven't used yet, but because once again, the question came up, do we transfer one egg at a time or 2? And, Dr. T gave me the choice. He was like, do you want to do 2? And I said, you know what? Based off of my past experiences, let's try one and then, see what happens. And then we'll try the second one. Hopefully, maybe I'm hoping maybe later this year, we'll try the second embryo. But, and, and I'll be honest, it was heart wrenching, the first egg retrieval, and not getting, and of course, because life, right. I get the results for that first egg retrieval, like the day before my birthday, right. It's like, but I can't tell you when Dr. T sent me the email on that second egg retrieval, that 2 embryos were healthy. I mean, like I was bouncing off the walls. Like I messaged Cecilia, one of the nurses, and I was like, I feel like a kid, like a high school kid. I'm just like jumping up and down all over my house, like because of the fact that they're healthy embryos, right? And, even there though, as amazing as everything is, you do have to realize that, life is going to unfold how it's going to unfold. I feel very blessed that I am here, and I know I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for Dr. T, but, it doesn't necessarily always go the way you expect or the way you seem, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just everybody's journey is different, right?
Totally. Yeah. Oh, well, I so appreciate your honesty. I was going to say, coming back with your son, Alex, and him meeting the staff here, and walking back into the clinic doors, how does it feel coming back after having had a baby? And also, like you just said about your remaining embryo, how do you feel knowing that you might potentially try again?
So, what's funny is my mom actually made me kind of feel better about this, because I was actually nervous about going back to the office, genuinely, because I've been in that place. I've been in that place where it's like, you see these people walking in with these children, and you were in this place where you've been trying for years and you don't know what to do. And you're like, I'm never going to get there. And, I said to my mom, I was like, I kind of feel bad going back to the office. She's like, no, you shouldn't, because you know what? You're a sign of hope, Yeah. And I and that's like that resonated with me. And so when I went back to the office, and I just hope that when people hear my story, or when, they see me with Alex, like Dr. T's office, it's like, this is possible, this is possible, we all get there differently, but it is possible, and I'll be honest with you. I'm excited, for so long, me and my husband, it's been me and my husband, and now we have this beautiful baby boy, and it's just kind of, it's existential. It's like, sometimes I'm having these existential moments where it's like, you're here, and this thought of maybe possibly having even 2 children, which, I wasn't even sure I was going to have 1 children, and it's just like, I'm going from like, a twosome to now a threesome to, and I'm like, oh my, like, is this actually going to happen? It's like, it feels so surreal. I mean, a beautiful surreal, but it feels very surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. And because all of the people who work here know you, is it nice having a warm reception when you come back?
Oh, it's like talking. It's like, when you get on the phone with a friend you haven't seen or heard in a while, and it's just like, bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
It's like, nice. Right. And I walk in, like the other day when I walked in, and Bushra like walked past, and she's like, oh, and I was like, and she's like, is it really been that long? And I was like, yes. And so like, we just standing there talking, like, like chatty Cathy's, right. Like like we didn't even stop, and then it's so, nice. And then she goes over to Dr. T's office, and, she's like, I have to show you the most beautiful man in this office. Right. She's busted. And then I pop in with Alex, and so I actually have a picture of him if you want me to share my screen. But yeah, I'll send you some photos of.
Yeah, that would be lovely. We'd love to see him. And then for people who are embarking on their first trip here, or, changing clinics like you did, first starting out, whatever it might be, looking for the right doctor for them, what would be your tips?
Don't be so judgmental on yourself. Like I remember one of the first times I walked into Dr. T's office, and we were meeting for the first time, and I was just like, well, I'm on this prenatal, and I'm, and like, I'm taking a Bequinol, and he's like, and I think that's part of our problem, is like, you're so stressed about it, and you want it so badly that you get so caught up in like, what do I need? And like, I think it's also having a little faith and trust, and like, so it was funny because once again, I think one of the best things about Dr. T is he's so calm, and like I walked in there and I was like, and he's like, okay, I don't think you really need all that, like it just was very, but it just made me feel relaxed, and I mean, another thing that happened, I was in for my first trimester, and that's always where I would miscarry with Alex. Right. And I was in my first trimester, and I actually got COVID. I got Omicron. Right. And I was absolutely besides myself. I was worried, paranoid. And so I called up to Dr. T's office and I was like, I know I'm coming out of my, third trimester. I really should be seeing another doctor, but can you just, check on him really quick? And he's like, come by as soon as, you're out of so then I was just worried, is he going to have a heartbeat? He's going to have a heartbeat, because always in the past I would lose the heartbeat. Right. And I went to the office and we did the ultrasound, and, he hands it, of course there's a heartbeat. Right. And then I was like, oh, okay, but do we need to do labs? And he's like, no, he's like, the proof, he says, he hands me the heart rate, and he's like, the proof is in the pudding. He's like,
how reassuring.
And it's like, he's like, you don't need labs. He's like, the proof is in the pudding. And I was like, and it's just that feeling of like it, because it makes you take the wall down a little bit. It makes you don't feel like you have to be on edge all the time. And that, in my opinion, it doesn't help with this process, right? Because this process, it's stressful, and, like with all the injections and everything. And it's just, you need that kind of, that little bit of like, it's going to be okay. Like kind of feeling, and I always get that from Sher Fertility. I mean, even one time when Dr. T was away and Dr. Sher had come in from, Vegas, I mean, like he came in and saw me, and he's so funny. And like, he even like, I'm sitting there, the first time I'm meeting the man, he's like, here's my cell phone number if you need anything. And I'm like, okay. Like, it's just that really very welcoming.
Yeah, that's so nice. So important, isn't it? That just to have that guidance and that support and that bedside manner as well. Well, Trish, thank you so much for sharing. Really, really lovely to chat to you today. And I'm so happy for you and your husband and for baby Alex.
Yeah. Thank you so much.